Today in our 2016 Chevrolet Silverado 2500, we're going to take a look at and also show you how to install the Curt custom fifth wheel installation kit with carbide finish. Part number is C16411-204. Now this is what our custom side plates look like installed. You see these bolt directly to the frame using some M16 bolts that go right into weld nuts. That allows for excellent connection point between our frame and the end of our rails up here on each side without the need to drill out the frame or make any kind of modifications. As you can see, the carbide finish is going to give you a nice clean look. We've got good sturdy rails, and it's going to offer the three different widths, the outer, middle, and inner widths that are very typical with most standard fifth wheel hitches. This is going to work out well with, of course, the Curt, but also Reese, Valley, and several other types of fifth wheels. So it'll allow us to safely haul a fifth wheel trailer. Now we put this one in a short box. Always a good idea for a slider or something that gives you extra room behind the cab. In a long bed, you'll have to just do the measurements and see how it works out. There are also gooseneck plates that are designed to drop right into our pin locations here. And that'll give you a gooseneck ball in the middle that is kind of interchangeable with your fifth wheel. Now from the top of the bed's corrugation to the top of the rails, we've got about a 1-inch difference there. Now the rails are a nice heavy duty steel material. They've got a solid black powder coat finish on them. The hardware, it's going to be corrosion resistant, so this should look good in the back of our truck for quite a few years. Now to begin our installation, we need to get our forward rail positioned in the truck bed. Now we've got a couple different measurements depending on the long box or short box situation. You need to measure from that rear edge to the back edge of our rail here. You'll notice this truck has a spray-in bed liner. You need to account for the thickness of that as well. Now not only do we need to get this square front and back here, but this is also going to need to be squared up side to side. So we can measure over from our wheel well. And once we have this in the appropriate position, we need to mark the center of each of our hole locations. We'll be using the middle one here in the back side, and then the two on each end. Now we can center punch those. Just keep our drill bit from moving around. Now we're going to take just a 1/8 inch drill bit, a nice small drill bit, and drill out one of our holes. We'll make sure that these are matching up with our side plates. Now, depending on your vehicle, you may or may not have these fender liners that are kind of inside of the rear wheel here. If you do have them, there's going to be 14 little torque screws that kind of go around the edge here, then also across this back side. You want to get all those taken out and then get that fender pulled down. This is what it's going to look like, and you'll need a T15 Torx bit to get them out. Now we can grab our side plate. We need to mock it up. We want the larger bracket. So a smaller one in the front here, larger one in the back. We want that towards the back, and then they should loop in and over our frame. Once we have that in position, you're going to notice we've got on these round holes weld nuts that already exist in the frame. So we're just going to use the provided hardware, put a flat washer and a lock washer on it, and we can thread that in. Put one there in the back, and also one right up here in the front. All right, now it's time to verify that the hole we created in the bed does line up with the rear hole in our bracket here. Once we've confirmed that our hole does line up with our side plate, we're going to move up to a 1/4 inch drill bit, drill out each of our holes, and then use a step drill bit to bring it up to 9/16 of an inch. Now we're going to clean up our mess here, and we're going to touch up each of the holes with a little bit of rust preventative spray paint just to prevent rusting and things like that. We'll position our rail back over top of the holes. Now we're going to start getting our bolts in position. for the middle one here, since it's in the middle of the corrugation, the bolt's just going to pass down through. For the outside hole, since it's in the lower portion, we need to put our U-shaped spacers underneath there. It's going to prevent the rail from crushing the bed. And then just like we did with the center, our bolt will just slide in. Now, since our bolt was in the top of the corrugation on the top, we're going to be putting another U-shaped spacer here on the bottom. We'll follow that up with our square hole spacer. And then we can thread on our flange nut. And we're going to use this to just kind of anchor that rail down. Hand tight's really all we need to do. Then we need to add on a square hole spacer and a flange nut to the other 4 bolts, the 2 that we have on each side. We're going to go through, we're going to snug up that forward rail. The last step is going to be getting everything torqued down. Now we just really want to hold it down in position. Now we're going to grab the rails of whatever your 5th wheel arms or your leg kit, they call it, are going to be. We're going to position in the front rail and match that up to the rear rail. Now once we have this in, we want to pull it as far forward as we can so we have good pressure there. And then we need to measure our wheel wells again, going side to side. Then we're going to repeat the exact same process for the holes in this rail, although this time we need to use the holes that are the second set from the outside, not all the way to the outside. We're going 1 set in from there. Now since these bolt holes are all on the top side, our U-shaped spacers will go on the bottom. We're going to take our spacers, those are going to go between the brackets and the bottom of the bed. That gives us the gap that we need. And then just like we did on the forward, we put on our square hole spacer block and one of our flange nuts. Now we'll go through and get each of our bolts torqued down to the specifications, which are listed in our instructions. We'll start with the 1/2-inch bolts, then we can move to the M16s that went into the frame rails. Now with everything torqued down, if you had to remove them, we'll put the side skirts back in on the fenders here. So I kind of push them up into position around the edge and then start lining up your holes. We'll just go through, get all of our screws started here, and then just snug them down. That's going to complete our installation of the Curt Custom 5th Wheel Installation Kit, part number C16411-204 on our 2016 Chevrolet Silverado 2500.
Click the link below to shop, learn more, or visit us at eTrailer.com.